Hey everybody, it's Greg again. It's another edition of Unbreakable the podcast. It's Thursday, September 12th. Listen, my man John Bon Jovi, Jersey's own. Huh? Did you hear the story about Bon Jovi? What happened Tuesday night? He was filming a music video down in Tennessee on some kind of bridge down there. And they had closed the bridge down for traffic. Although there were people walking and there were people bicycling, but no cars. So he's there with his production crew, his team, and he notices there's a girl down the other end of the bridge who's ready to jump off the bridge into the Cumberland River. She's on the other side of the railing and she's hanging on. Well, have you ever heard about being in the right place at the right time? And sometimes it's fate or destiny, or maybe it's God, right? Because he's there. He could have been anywhere in the world filming this music video. And here he is in Tennessee on this bridge, and this girl is ready to commit suicide. So what happens? No cops there, nobody. People are walking by her, not either they don't realize what's going on or they don't want to get involved. Here, Bon Jovi and an assistant walk down to the other end of the bridge, and he leans over the rail and he starts talking to this girl. This girl is about 62. I should call her Ruby, this woman. She's about 62-ish. He starts talking to her. After a while, this is all on video. You could Google this after you watch me and see it for yourself. It just happened Tuesday night. He's talking to her. And then about a minute later, he and his assistant go down to her, pull her over the railing. I think she went willingly because when he came down, he must have introduced himself. Hi, I'm Bon Jovi. Because you see her in the video waving her hands at him. It's like either she knew who he was, or when he introduced himself to her, she said, "Oh, I know you. What the hell are you doing here?" They pull her over the railing. He talks to her, gives her a big hug, and then they walk down the other end of the bridge. And all we know of after that is that I guess the police came, or ambulance, whatever, and they took her for a mental health examination. But isn't that remarkable, though? First of all, this Bon Jovi guy is a good guy. He's a good guy. You've read about or heard about Bon Jovi. He's got these soup kitchens for homeless, you know, all around the country. And it's not a handout, it's not free. People come in, get a meal, they're expected to work it off, either doing dishes or some sort of community work. Uh, but he's a good guy. He cares. He just doesn't have, and trust me, I'm not the biggest Bon Jovi fan in the world. To me, his music is okay. I mean, obviously, you've heard of Bon Jovi from the 80s, right? That was his heyday. Uh, but I always knew, first of all, he's a Jersey guy like Springsteen. And I always knew Bon Jovi was a good guy. You know, so for him to do this, he didn't have to get involved. He didn't have to, but he did. And if you're a guy like Bon Jovi, you can't help but get it. You say, I see this person ready to take her life. I gotta do something. I gotta try something. You know, Bon Jovi just doesn't have these soup kitchens for the homeless. The but he gets involved. He talks to people, and he gets involved. He cares, and he knows how to talk to people. Uh, he knows how to soothe them and be a calming influence. And obviously he was, because obviously this lady was ready to take her life for whatever the reason was. And he was able to talk to her and change her mind. It's very powerful. I am surprised that the media hasn't picked up on this story. I saw it on Twitter last night, so maybe it's just starting to make the rounds. But I watched Good Morning America today, and I didn't see anything unless I missed it. But it should be a bigger story because, number one, it shows that kindness matters. It shows that here's a superstar, here's a celebrity. He's got all this money. He cares about people. And he's an example to all of us to get involved. Again, you had all these other people walking right by her, bicycling by her, and they didn't care, or they didn't want to get involved. And here was Bon Jovi, who didn't have to get involved. He was there filming a music video. Out of all, he could have been anywhere in the world, and he was there right at the same time that this lady was going to commit suicide. And he was able to talk her out of it. He was able to pull her over the railing and save her. People like Bon Jovi should be celebrated in our society for his humanity and his kindness, and for giving a damn. Where a lot of times in our world, especially now, people just don't give a damn. They don't care. But he does. So, Bon Jovi, I salute you with my pink water. There you go. I wanted to share something with you guys today. And but before I do, we can't forget about my friend Bud. There he is, the great one. There's a shot of him, obviously, around his birthday. He's got his, doesn't he look happy? He's smiling. He's got his birthday cake, not a real cake, not real cake, in case you're concerned. He's got his birthday bib or scarf on there too. And he looks very jovial, which he was. We miss you and we love you, Bud. I know you're up there thinking about this. You know, I was thinking about that the other day. Of course, we all lose pets sooner or later in our lives. Unfortunately, that's one of the prices we pay of owning a furry friend. But I think it's worth it because you think of all the happiness that your cat or dog or whatever parrot or whatever pet you have, all the happiness that pet gives you during their life. And it's unconditional love. Well, but we all must lose a friend now and then. And I know I lost this guy within the last 6 months, and I still miss him. But, you know, we have to remember too, if you have another pet, like I do, Katie and now Coco, don't forget them. Don't forget that they may be grieving too. I know Katie did. I know Katie missed Bud because she grew up with Bud. Well, and all of a sudden he wasn't there. And she knows something happened to him. He's not coming back. She doesn't know quite what. happened to him. That's got to be very sad and very frustrating to feel that. So please never forget your other furry friends. Like Katie did, she may need a little extra TLC, a little extra care, a little extra attention at that time. So if you lost a loved one, furry friend, I'm sure we all have, so you can relate. If you have another pet, don't forget that they may be grieving too. Give them time to grieve and let them grieve how they want, and just provide a lot of calm, quiet reassurance. And hopefully you'll get them through it, just like we go through it. I got to show you something. I got to share this with you because I just got a copy of this the other day in the mail. I didn't know this was out, but this was out in July. And there's a picture of my friend, John Ritter. Remember John Ritter? He played Jack Tripper on Three's Company. One of the best comics, comedians in the world. Don Knotts, who was a great comedian himself, called John Ritter when he was working with him on Three's Company, called him the greatest physical comedian in the world. And he did. John Ritter grew up loving Jerry Lewis and Laurel and Hardy and Dick Van Dyke. Loved Dick Van Dyke. And the reason I did this is this particular issue of Closer magazine is about John Ritter and about his brother Tom. And his brother Tom is an older brother, and Tom has cerebral palsy. And Tom wrote a little article here about John Ritter and what it was like growing up with John Ritter, and how John was a great, even though Tom was the older brother, John acted like the older brother. He took care of Tom. He made sure that Tom wasn't bullied in school or on the playground. And John was his best friend. Let's see, John was his protector, his brother, and his best friend. And Tom writes about how he misses John even now, how life was growing up with John Ritter, how it was always fun in the house, you know. And you know, I'm interested in this because I think I told you before, I met John Ritter when I was younger. I was only 20, 21. And we got tickets to the old Mike Douglas show in Philadelphia. Do you remember Mike Douglas? And we used to tape all the shows in Philly at the KYW studios, which were only like maybe a block away from the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall at that time. We got tickets to the show. My mom used to love Mike Douglas. She used to watch him every single day. And he used to come on here in Philly. He used to come on around 12:30 in the afternoon. Or I believe there was a time he was on in the mornings. And his show is like an hour and a half. You have all kinds of cool guests on. And usually he would have a guest, one main guest for the whole week. Like he had John Lennon and Yoko Ono on, I think it was 71 or so. And he had them on for the whole week. And then they had a lot of guests that they asked Mike to bring on, and a lot of their friends. Like Chuck Berry came on with John Lennon. I was jamming with him, playing Johnny Be Good. That was really cool. Well, when we went down to see Mike Douglas that day, we had no idea who we were going to see. None at all. And we got there, and you know, it was the big thing about being in a TV studio. I'd never been in a TV studio before. all the lights and the cameras, you know, and seeing Mike Douglas in the flesh. Well, my mom loved that. It's like this big superstar, Mike Douglas, Mikey. And we didn't know who was going to be on until what Mike used to do as his announcer at the beginning of the show used to say, and it's the Mike Douglas show. And with our guest stars today, Denise Alexander. She was a soap opera star back in the 60s and 70s. And she was on Days of Our Lives, which my mom also watched. So this was a double treat for my mom. Not only did she get to see the one and only superstars, Mike Douglas, she got to see Denise Alexander too. Who else was on the show? Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes, who are still around. They're still around, and they did some sort of song, I don't know what it was, live in the studio then. Because Mike Douglas, he didn't have any lip syncing in his show. You had to do your songs live. And Southside Johnny did. Who else was on the show? Robert Duvall. Yes, the actor Robert Duvall was on. And I knew who he was. And so that was kind of a kick to see him in person live. We had front row seats too. That was one of the perks about being in a wheelchair. Like I had my wheelchair, I was sat in the seat. I had this light blue leisure suit. It was stupid. But that's what a lot of guys wore back in the 70s. Leisure suits. I wish I would have known that. Thankfully, no tape exists. Although I did find it, I found it a few years. I Googled this particular show, and I saw myself in the opening as the camera pans around. There we are in the front row clapping, and just for a brief second, and there I am with my stupid powder blue leisure suit. I don't know. Am I still out there somewhere? Anyway, the final guest on the show, they may have had an animal act like dogs jumping through hoops. Like Douglas would always put some sort of a cheesy act on at the end, just the beef it. But at the end, another guest was this unknown actor, John Ritter. Well, he had John Ritter on, to make a long story short. And he talked about this new pilot that he just filmed called Three's Company. And it was going to run, we saw him, this was around July 1977, this occurred. And so Three's Company, he had filmed the pilot in the spring. And it was picked up for the summer. And they weren't sure yet, ABC, whether they were going to pick up the show as a regular show in the fall. So John Ritter came on and was talking about, he did a little brief clip of the pilot episode. I don't know if you remember this or not. It looked funny. I had no clue who this guy was. Absolutely no clue. He had been on other shows, like he played a reverend on the Waltons. Remember the Waltons? And he had been on some other TV shows. I had no clue who he was. So, got done with the Mike Douglas show. We're in the courtyard of KYW Studios. It's hot outside, really hot. I'm sweating bullets in my leisure suit. And I'm there, and I'm with my mom and my Uncle Henry and my Aunt Sue. And we're thinking about, what do we want to do next? Do we want to walk down the street and see the Liberty Bell, or do we want to go home? So we're deciding there. And people are milling around. And this guy comes up to me and he says, older guy, he says, hey, do you want to meet Johnny? And I'm like, Johnny who? He says, do you want to meet Johnny? And I'm thinking, who the hell's he talking about? John Lennon? Sure. So I said, yeah. And he said, okay. And he called across the courtyard, Johnny, come here. Somebody wants to meet you. I looked down, and here's this young guy, the same guy, the unknown actor who was on the Mike Douglas show. And he's taking pictures with a bunch of girls, females. I would say like 30s, 30 something, you know. And I remember, he's in the middle, he has a girl on each end with his arm around him. And he broke away from the girls and he came over to me. And this guy, he must have been his manager or agent. He said, Johnny, this is a fan of yours. He wants to meet you. And I thought, not really. I don't know who you are. But I was a nice guy. I said, sure. So he said, hi, how you doing? And he stuck his hand out, shook his hand. This guy here. And I said, fine. And I'll never forget this. He got down on my level. But you don't find much in the world. People are usually literally talking over you, down to you, when you are living life, seeing life from a wheelchair perspective. He got down on his haunches there and he started talking to me. And that impressed me. And impresses me even now when people get down so we're eye to eye, you know, because they understand. And we were talking, and I had nothing for him to suck. I had no camera, so I couldn't get proof. It was stupid because I was wearing this stupid suit. I had nothing to sign because I didn't anticipate getting an autograph. So I had my ticket stub from the Mike Douglas suit, this yellow and brown ticket stub. And I said, could you sign this, please? He said, sure. And he signed it, best wishes. The ticket stub was so small, he put the best wishes and then John Ritter down the side because he didn't have enough room. And, I said, thank you, shook hands with him again. That was it. Went back to taking pictures with the girls. Well, then what happened was, maybe 5 minutes later, we broke up and we were at the curb waiting for the light to change so we could cross the street to go to the parking lot or wherever we needed to go. Well, wouldn't you know it, as we waited for the light, here's John Ritter standing next to me to my right, about 10 feet away. He had a suitcase. He had his clothes, his suit jacket, thrown over. Well, he was wearing a blue suit, blue tie, white shirt, but he also had another jacket thrown over, like a plastic covering thing, had it thrown over his shoulder, and he was smoking a cigarette. And he's waiting there, and I'm like, I look over to him, he looks over at me. Okay. And he got a cab. The cab came before we got the chance to prosecute. Cab came, jumped in the cab, off he went into history. Who knew? He would win Emmys, Golden Globes. He would do movies like Sling Blade, That Santa. He would become this icon figure who Jack Tripper. And then he did another show called Married to My Teenage Daughter or something like that. I don't know. And sadly, he would die. He was only 52, 2003, from a heart problem, which apparently he had from birth. They never diagnosed, he was misdiagnosed, and he died on the operating table when he got into the hospital. So when I heard that he passed away, I It's really sad. I teared up. And I'm like, remember meeting him. And what a nice guy he was, friendly, kind. In fact, when he wrote his signature, he said, I hope you understand my chicken scratch. That's an old term, chicken scratch. um, he's a nice guy, just as nice and funny as you would think John Ritter would be. So that's my John Ritter story. So, one last thing. I later found out that his brother Tom, who wrote this article, had cerebral palsy. And for a time, when he was a kid, he got around in a wheelchair too. So that explained to me why Ritter got it, why he could relate, why he understood, why he was able to get down on my level to talk to me, to not talk over me, why he was so kind enough to come and say hello to me. Just like John Bon Jovi, he didn't have to do it, but he did. Something I'll never forget. So that's about it. Phillies are off today. They deserve it. They'll be back at play tomorrow night at home against the Mets. Have a good series this weekend and next weekend in New York. And they could kind of put the Mets out of their misery too, which would be nice. And Monday Night Football tonight, Dolphins and the Bills. If I had to play a side, I don't know if I'd like either team, probably Miami, but Tyreek Hill had a great wide receiver. You know, he got into this altercation with the police down in Miami. They said he was speeded, and they took him out of the car, handcuffed him, put him on the ground. There's all, ramifications from that incident. His line receiving is 99.5, depending on where you look. I would go under. And the reason I would say under is because he had a good week last week, and I think he was very motivated from that incident. However, I did a little research. In the 5 games he's played against the Bills recently, the Bills have held him in check at well under 99 yards receiving. So if I had to play anything tonight, I would say Tyreek Hill under 99. You might find it 97, which is okay. Under receiving too. So that's it. That's it. Last thing I think I want to say. I've been thinking about, you know who I've been thinking about lately? Other than John Ritter, the great John Ritter, Mr. Rogers. Why, I don't know. It's a funny day in the neighborhood. The neighborhood. Would you be on? Could you be my neighbor? And then Eddie Murphy's take on Mr. Rogers, Mr. Robinson's neighborhood. Would you be my neighbor? Anyway, I've been thinking about Mr. Rogers, and I came across an interview he did with Johnny Carson. It's a great Johnny Carson. The first time Mr. Rogers was on Johnny Carson's show. Well, you know what happened? Johnny Carson, before this, did a parody of Mr. Rogers, sort of like Eddie Murphy did. And Johnny Carson came in all made up as Mr. Rogers, went to the bird cage to feed the bird, and the parrot was dead with its legs up in the air. And it's just a parody of stuff. Well, here he has Mr. Rogers on his freaking program. And, he comes out and the people are applauding and laughing because Johnny Carson just showed this little clip. And so it had to be kind of awkward, because Johnny is asking him, I hope you don't mind, we did this little parody a while ago. And Mr. Rogers, as soon as he opened his mouth, You know how Mr. Rogers used to talk very softly, calmly, with confidence and assurance. And he said, "Why, no, I'm not offended. I have friends who like to have fun too." So it was okay. But all through the interview, people in the audience were laughing. And I think they were kind of laughing at Mr. Rogers because of the way he spoke and the fact that he he uh, he was an advocate for children. And one thing he said in that interview, among other things, that impressed me a great deal, along with other interviews I saw of him at that time, they asked him about how calm he was, how soft spoken he was. And where did that come from? Where did where was that inner peace? Where was it coming from? I mean, other than his faith, which he was a man of faith, and the way he was brought up by his parents, where was he finding this peace and calmness in his soul? It was very interesting. He said, "Well, so I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning before I take a swim, and he loved to swim. Before he went about his business during the day, did a show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. But what he did, first thing he did when he woke up in the morning, he said, other than pray, was he took time. He took an hour or two just to sit, maybe on his deck, maybe somewhere in the house with a cup of coffee, just to sit and be quiet, be silent, and just to take everything and to think and to process things and think about how his day is going to go." And that impressed me a great deal because he said, even back then, I think this was taped in 1991, I believe, could have been late 80s. He said, "Well, the world is noisy. There's so much noise." And this was even before computers and cell phones and all this other stuff coming at us constantly. You can imagine nowadays it's even worse. And he said, I just need time to myself to get away from all the noise of the world. That's where I find my inner peace. Those moments of quiet that I spend each day in the morning before I start my day. And maybe you do the same thing. Maybe you go for a jog or for a walk in the morning around your neighborhood. Or maybe you just sit on the patio with a cup of coffee and just watching the birds and the trees and just enjoying life, just enjoying being alive. So that impressed me a great deal about this guy. I could go one more and more about him, but I won't. But he was an impressive man. We talked about John Jovi, for God's sakes, right? John Ritter. Add Fred Rogers to the list because he was so impressive. Not only his devotion to kids and being a teacher, but his kindness to everyone. And just the fact that he was so soft-spoken and nice to people. You don't find that very much anymore. I think we could use Mr. Rogers nowadays. And but we do have John Bon Jovi. I'm just saying. Okay, everyone, have a peaceful, quiet day. I hope it's a good day for you. And thanks for tuning in. if you like the show, there are about 381 of these bad boys in a vault. Go to YouTube, look under my channel, which is Unbreakable Spirits with an S, and you can find all the past episodes. And of course, we'll be doing more. So I hope to see you tomorrow. What I'm going to do now is finally, now's the time to do our TV class. I have to do it separately because this one I need to talk in the forum. So I hope you like it. I hope you'll tune in. And thanks for joining me today for this show. Everybody, peace and love. Take care. Let's see you again soon. Bye.